Hey, tonight, something feels different. The wind carries dust and silence. The sounds of your world are fading, as if the air itself is holding its breath, watching. You've felt this before. A quiet shift, a doorway opening. Hello there. I'm really glad you're here with me. Find a soft place to rest. Let your body settle. And let's take a slow, deep breath together, in through the nose and gently out through the mouth. Let everything go. I always wonder where these stories are being heard. What time it is for you? What kind of night you're having? If you'd like, tell me in the comments. It's always comforting to see this quiet circle stretch across the world. Let's take one more deep breath, and as you exhale, imagine the edges of your day softening, the screen fading into a soft mist until you are surrounded only by earth, sky, and silence. Tonight, we journey to a time of iron and dust, a time not of kings or monuments, but of those whose names were never written down. This is a story not of glory, but of survival, of bread and water, of warmth and dust, a quiet, forgotten life, lived one dawn at a time. So now, let's begin. You wake up to a familiar sound. It's not the rooster yet, he is still a little while away. No, this sound is softer. A gentle thump-thump from the other room. It is the sound of your wife beginning to work the dough for the morning's bread, a rhythm as constant and as comforting as your own heartbeat. You lie on your sleeping mat for a moment longer, watching the pale light of dawn begin to filter through the single, high window of your small mud brick home. The air is cool and smells of dust and sleep and home. Nothing has changed. Nothing ever changes. This is the first of your simple certainties. You rise, the woven mat rough beneath your feet. You pour water from an earthenware jug into a basin. It is shockingly cold against your skin, but it wakes you completely. The water comes from the canal, which is fed by the great river, and the river is the lifeblood of this entire world. It has always flowed, and it will always flow. This is another of your certainties. You dress in simple, homespun clothes and step outside. The sky is a soft, bruised purple, just beginning to blush with pink at the eastern horizon, over the distant, jagged mountains. The air is so still that you can hear the rustle of the leaves in your small apricot orchard, a sound like whispering. You take a deep breath. It smells of damp earth and the sweet perfume of the night-blooming flowers your wife tends by the door. Your children are still asleep inside, their gentle breathing a soft counterpoint to the waking world. You know that soon their laughter will fill this small yard. Your world is contained in this space, these walls, this orchard, this family. It is all you have ever needed. It is all you will ever need. You walk the familiar path toward your fields. Your bare feet know every stone, every patch of soft dust. You pass your neighbor's home, and he is already outside, mending a fence. You raise a hand, he raises one back. No words are needed. You have known him your entire life. Your fathers knew each other, and their fathers before them. Your lives are woven together, season by season, harvest by harvest. You reach your plot of land. The narrow irrigation channels you cleared yesterday are running with cool, clear water. You stoop down, dipping your hand in. The water is life. You can see your melons green and swollen on the vine. You can see your wheat, still green but growing taller each day under the patient sun. You walk the rows, your eyes scanning for any signs of blight, for any pests that might have come in the night. The work is hard, your back aches at the end of the day, and your hands are calloused and cracked. But it is good work. It is honest work. You are a farmer in the lands of Khwarazm, and your purpose is simple: to coax life from the soil, to feed your family, to watch the sun rise and set on a world that makes sense. The sun will always rise. The rains will come in their season. The harvest will be gathered. The Shah protects the empire. The scholars in Samarkand study the stars. And you tend your small piece of the earth. These are the pillars that hold up your world. They feel as solid and as permanent as the mountains themselves. Later, as the sun climbs higher, casting its brilliant golden light across the valley, you sit in the shade of a mulberry tree to eat the bread your wife made. It is still warm. You eat it with a small piece of salty cheese and an onion. The taste is simple and perfect. You can hear the distant sounds of the village now. The clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the bleating of goats, the shouts of children playing a game. Everything is in its proper place. Everything is as it should be. You feel a deep contentment settle in your chest, a quiet joy. You believe this day will be like all the others. A week later, you are in the city. The noise and the chaos of the marketplace in Bukhara are a world away from the quiet of your farm. But even here, there are rhythms. The scent of cardamom and cinnamon hangs heavy in the air, mingling with the smell of roasting meat and unwashed bodies. You hear the endless drone of 1,000 conversations, of merchants hawking their wares, of donkeys complaining under their loads. You have sold your melons, and now you sit in the shade of an awning, sipping a small cup of hot, sweet tea, watching the river of humanity flow by. It is then that you see them. A small group of men huddled together at a nearby table. They are traders, you can tell by their clothes, but not from here. Their robes are caked in a thick, reddish dust you do not recognize, and they are worn in a way that speaks of a long and terrible journey. They speak in low, hushed tones, but the wind carries fragments of their conversation to you. You are not trying to listen, but you cannot help it. Their faces draw you in. They are not haggling or gossiping. Their eyes are wide, and they dart around as if expecting an attack at any moment, even here, in the bustling heart of the city. One of them, an older man with a thin, ragged beard, is speaking, his voice a dry rasp. "Not an army," he whispers, and the other men lean in closer. "An army has a banner, a king. This was a storm made of men and horses." Another man, younger, shakes his head, his hand trembling so much he spills his tea. "They do not conquer," he says, his voice cracking. "They erase. We saw the smoke from 100 miles away. When we got to the city of Otrar, there was no city left. The walls were rubble. The streets were silent. You feel a small chill despite the heat of the day. Otrar, you have sent goods there. It is a great city, a fortress. Travelers' tales, you tell yourself. Merchants are known for their exaggerations. You try to focus on the taste of your tea, on the vibrant colors of the silks being sold across the way. But the old man's voice cuts through the noise again. They ride without supply lines because their supply line is the land they cross. They eat anything. They ride their horses until they drop, and then they eat them and take new ones from their herds. They appear where no one expects them, over mountains no army can cross. A man at the table makes a sound, a soft, choked sob. They said the governor, Inalchuk, they poured molten silver into his eyes and ears. Your breath catches in, your throat. You try to reason with yourself. This is madness, a story to frighten children. No one is that cruel, no one is that powerful. The world as you know it does not contain such monsters. Your Shah is mighty, your armies are strong. This is just a bad dream. A dark fantasy spun by tired men. Yet, as you look at them, you see no fantasy in their eyes. You see only a hollow, haunted truth. You see men who have looked into the abyss. They have no name for this force. They only call it a scourge, a plague, the people from hell. The words hang in the air between you and them. A poison you have now accidentally ingested. You stand up, your tea unfinished. The market suddenly feels fragile, the noise too loud, the sunlight too bright. You walk home, the weight of a story you wish you hadn't heard settling upon you. The seasons turn as they always do. The whispers from the marketplace have faded, becoming just another traveler's tale, a dark story told by tired men, softened by time and the reassuring rhythm of your own life. The harvest was good, and the storehouses are full. The Shah, you are told, is assembling the greatest army the world has ever seen to punish the upstarts in the East. There is a confidence in the air again, a swagger in the soldiers who patrol the city walls. Today, that confidence is a tangible thing, a palpable heat rising from the throngs of people packed into the great square before the palace in Samarkand. You have come with your neighbors, drawn by the news. The Shah's own envoy, sent to meet with the leader of this new tribe, is returning. A murmur of anticipation ripples through the crowd. People speak of the tribute that will be demanded, the stern warnings that will be delivered. You feel it too, a sense of pride, of belonging to something powerful and eternal. This is the center of the world after all. Who would dare challenge it? The palace gates swing open. A silence falls, thick with expectation. A lone figure emerges, walking slowly into the brilliant sunlight. But the triumphant cheer dies in 1,000 throats. Before it can even begin, this is not the proud diplomat who left weeks ago. This man is broken. His fine silk robes are torn and stained with the dust of the road. He walks with a stoop, his eyes fixed on the stone tiles beneath his feet, as if he cannot bear to meet the gaze of the crowd. And then you see it. The detail that sends a wave of collective shock through the square. His face. It is bare. His long, dignified beard, the symbol of his age, his wisdom, and his station, has been shaved off, leaving his chin naked and shamed. The crowd does not understand the specifics, but they understand the meaning of humiliation. It is a language of pure power, and it is chilling. The man finally reaches the center of the square and stops. He does not look at the Shah, seated on his balcony, but at the ground. His voice, when he speaks, is a dry, cracked whisper that barely carries, yet everyone strains to hear it. He says he was brought before a man who calls himself Genghis Khan, a name that sounds alien and harsh. This Khan, he says, sits not on a golden throne, but on a simple felt mat in a tent. He is surrounded not by perfumed courtiers, but by grim-faced warriors who smell of leather, and horse and blood. The envoy recounts the Khan's message. It is a stream of contradictions that makes no sense. The Khan declares himself the scourge of God, a punishment sent from heaven. In the next breath, he says he desires only peace and calls the mighty Shah his most cherished son. He asks for the trade routes to be opened, for merchants to pass freely, so that the riches of the west can flow east, and the goods of the way east can flow west. The message is simple, yet it feels heavy with unspoken threat. It is the language of a predator, feigning peace. You look around at the faces in the crowd. The earlier pride has evaporated, replaced by a deep, unnerving confusion. This is not how the world is supposed to work. You do not know the whole story. You cannot know that this envoy was the lucky one. You cannot know that another party of diplomats and merchants who went before him were seized by the Shah's governor in the city of Otrar, that their goods were stolen and the men themselves were executed, a catastrophic breach of ancient custom. To the Mongols, the person of an envoy was sacred. To harm one was an unforgivable sin, an act that demanded a war of utter annihilation. The shaved beard of the man standing before you is both a message and a final warning. It is the last offer of a peace that has already been broken by your own side. You do not know this, but you feel a fundamental shift in the world. The solid ground beneath your feet suddenly feels like sand. The pillars of your certainty are cracking. That night, for the first time, your sleep is filled with the image of a vast, empty sky and the sound of distant drums. The drums you heard in your dream are no longer imaginary. The news comes at first as a rumor too terrible to be believed. Otrar has fallen. Then Bukhara. The great armies of the Shah, the armies that were the pride of the empire, have vanished. They have been broken and scattered like dry leaves in a storm. The world has been turned upside down. One evening, as you were bringing your animals in from the field, a figure stumbles toward your farm. He is gaunt, skeletal, his clothes little, more than rags hanging from his bony frame. His eyes are wide, but they don't seem to see you. They see something else, something behind you, a memory playing out in the twilight. He is a refugee, a soldier, one of the few who escaped. You bring him into your home, and your wife gives him bread and water. He drinks the water in great, gulping swallows, his hands shaking, and then he begins to talk. He talks not of a battle, but of a nightmare. We were ready, he rasps, his voice raw. We had our heavy armor, our long spears. We stood in a proud line, shield to shield. We saw them coming, a dark line on the horizon, but they never charged. He looks at you, his eyes pleading for you to understand. They just danced. They rode in circles just out of range of our archers, firing their own bows from horseback. The sky turned black with arrows. It was not a volley, it was a constant rain. A hissing sound that never stopped. There was no one to fight, just this storm of arrows. As he speaks, you begin to understand. This is not warfare as you know it. There is no honor in it, no clash of steel on steel. It is a cold, efficient process of killing from a distance. The Mongol warrior could fire with deadly accuracy from a galloping horse, using a powerful composite bow that could pierce the armor of the Shah's soldiers. It was a weapon they had mastered from childhood. Then, the soldier continues, his voice dropping to a whisper. They broke, they turned and fled. We cheered. Our commander, a brave man, a fool, ordered the charge. We ran after them, our lines breaking in our eagerness for a real fight. The soldier closes his eyes, a tear tracing a path through the grime on his cheek. It was a trick. You can almost see it as he describes it. The feigned retreat. It was their most terrible tactic. They would lure a disciplined army into a chaotic, exhausting pursuit, and once their enemy was tired, disorganized, and far from its own lines, the trap would spring. Horns sounded, the soldier says, his body trembling with the memory. And they were everywhere, on our flanks behind us. New armies appeared from behind hills we thought were empty. They had surrounded us completely. They did not even need to fight us up close. They just stood in a circle and kept firing their arrows until no one was left standing. This was the Tumen, an army organized in units of 10,000 who could communicate and coordinate over vast distances with horns and flags, moving with a speed and precision that seemed supernatural. How could any army stand against such a storm? You give the man some water, but you cannot wash away the images he has planted in your mind. The last of the great host has marched away. You stood with everyone from your village, watching the river. Of men flow toward the horizon, a glittering spectacle of polished helmets and sharp spear points, the proud banners of the Shah snapping in the wind. You watched them go with a heart full of a strange mixture of pride and terror. They were the shield of the world, your shield, marching out to face the storm. As the last of their dust settled, a new quiet began to descend. In the first few hours, it felt like a relief, a gentle peace after the thunder of the army's departure. The world seemed to be taking a long, slow breath, but the breath was held for too long. The peace became a stillness. The stillness became a silence, and the silence began to grow heavy. By the third day, the silence has become a living thing. It is an unwelcome guest in your home, a constant presence in your fields. You wake in the morning, and the first thing you notice is not the birdsong, for the birds seem to have fled, but the absence of the blacksmith's hammer. His forge is cold, his hammer lies still. He marched with the army. You walk the village paths, and the usual sounds of life are muted, as if muffled by a thick blanket of snow. The boisterous calls of traders are gone. The sounds of children playing are subdued, their games are quieter, closer to home. Their parents watch them with a new kind of intensity. No one speaks of the army, no one mentions the battle that must be happening, or must have already happened somewhere beyond that empty horizon. To speak of it would be to give it power, to acknowledge the fear that is gnawing at the edges of every waking thought. So instead there is only the silence, and the unspoken shared question that hangs in the air between every person you meet. Your work becomes mechanical, an act of routine that you perform without thought. You tend your crops, you clear the irrigation ditches, but your eyes are not on the soil. Your eyes are drawn again and again to the northeast, to that vast empty line where the pale blue sky meets the brown earth. You find yourself scanning it constantly, searching for a sign, a plume of dust, the glint of a returning banner, anything. You see your neighbors doing the same, men and women pausing in their work, shading their eyes against the glare of the sun, their bodies frozen in a silent vigil. You look at each other, and you look away. There is nothing to say. The silence is the only answer. The days themselves feel longer, stretched thin by the weight of waiting. The sun beats down with an oppressive, punishing heat, and the wind that sweeps across the plains carries no familiar sounds. It carries only more dust and a deeper silence. The nights are worse. The darkness feels absolute, and every small, unidentifiable sound, the creak of a roof beam, the cry of a lone animal, makes your heart leap into your throat. You lie awake for hours, listening to the oppressive quiet. A week passes. Hope, which was once a bright flame, has become a dying ember, choked by the suffocating ash of this unending suspense. The fear is no longer at the edges. It is in the center of everything. It is the taste of your food, the feeling of the air in your lungs. The world feels wrong, out of balance. The natural order of things has been suspended, pending a verdict from an unseen judge. The silence has become so absolute, so profound, that it feels as if the world is waiting to be born or waiting to die. It is the quiet of the abyss. Then, one afternoon, as the sun begins its slow descent, you are standing by your field, your gaze once more lost on that empty horizon. The silence is perfect, complete, and then it is broken. At first, it is a sound so faint you think you have imagined. In a tiny rhythmic disturbance, thump, 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 thump. But it grows. Steadily, quickly. It is the unmistakable, frantic sound of a single horse, galloping as if it is being chased by hell itself. The lone rider confirms your worst fears. The army is no more. The shield is broken. The world you knew ended somewhere on that dusty plain, and now its ghost is coming for you. You are in Samarkand, the jewel of the world, but its high, strong walls no longer feel like a fortress. They feel like a trap. The city gates are barred. There is a frantic, desperate energy for a day or two as men reinforce the walls and organize militias, but everyone knows it is not enough. The waiting begins again, but this is not the heavy, empty silence of before. This is a silence filled with a terrifying certainty. You stand on the walls, a makeshift spear in your hand, and you watch the horizon, and then you see them. Not an army, but a slowly rising tide of darkness that covers the entire curve of the earth. They do not hurry. They flow across the land, a river of horsemen that seems to have no end, and they surround the city completely, cutting it off from all life. The trap is sprung. The siege begins. What happens next is not a chaotic assault, but a cold, industrial process of deconstruction. You watch in horror as the Mongols become locusts, devouring the landscape you have known your entire life. The beautiful orchards of apricot and mulberry that graced the city's outskirts are felled by 1,000 axes. The groves of poplar trees that lined the riverbanks are stripped and dragged away. The world outside your walls is being unmade, its pieces repurposed for your destruction. In a matter of days, a forest of monstrous siege engines rises from the plains. Great catapults and trebuchets taller than your home are assembled with a speed and skill that seems inhuman. Siege towers, draped in wet hides to protect them from fire, creep slowly closer to the walls each day. The ingenuity is terrifying. They are turning your own world against you. At night, the psychological war begins. Sleep is made impossible. Huge drums, some stretched over massive kettles that take multiple men to play, beat a constant, rhythmic pulse that shakes the very stones of the wall. Thump, 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 thump. It is the heartbeat of a patient monster. This is accompanied by the high, piercing shriek of horns made from bone, a sound that slips through every crack and fills your dreams with terror. The days are a relentless torment. The catapults begin their work. The air is filled with the constant thump-wump of the throwing arms and the high-pitched whistle of the massive stones they hurl. The impacts against the walls are like thunderclaps that you feel in your bones. They do not stop. From sunrise to sunset, it is an unceasing rhythm of death. Then comes the most horrific innovation of all. They bring forth prisoners from the last city they conquered. Thousands of them. These poor souls are forced to carry ladders and push siege rams, driven forward toward the walls as human shields. You look down from your post and you see their faces. Men just like you, filled with the same terror. You are being asked to kill them to save yourself. Many on the walls cannot do it. The city's defense falters, caught between pity and survival. The bombardment intensifies, the drums grow louder, the sky is dark with smoke and arrows and the dust of the crumbling ramparts. You feel the wall beneath you shudder. A deep, groaning sound echoes through the stone. A crack appears. It widens. With a final shattering roar, a section of the Great Wall of Samarkand collapses inward. The noise stops, and the silence that follows is the most terrifying sound of all. The silence is the sound of surrender, the sound of everything being over. You are herded from your home with the rest of the city's survivors. The streets are filled with rubble, the air thick with the smell of smoke and fear. You are forced through the broken gates and out into the open fields where the Mongol army waits. You are now part of a vast, silent ocean of humanity. Tens of thousands of people, men, women, and children, standing under the pale, hot sun, waiting for judgment. There is no rage from your captors. There is no chaotic violence. There is only a cold, quiet efficiency that is far more horrifying. Mongol warriors on horseback move along the edges of the crowd, their faces impassive, their eyes missing any spark of hatred or pity. They are simply administrators. This is not a massacre, you realize. It is a sorting, a processing of the raw materials of a conquered people. The process begins. Small groups of warriors walk into the crowd. They do not speak. They simply look, and they point. A young, strong man is pulled from his family. He tries to resist, but he is overwhelmed. You know what he is. He is Hashar, a forced levy. He will not be killed today. His fate is to march with the Mongol army to the next city, where he will be forced to the front lines to absorb enemy arrows and fill moats with his own body. He is a tool to be used and discarded. A warrior points to a young woman, then another. They are pulled away into a separate group. Their sobs are the only sound in the oppressive quiet. They are spoils of war, to be distributed among the soldiers or sent east as servants and concubines. Their lives as they knew them are over. The warriors move closer to you. You stand with your wife and your children, your hands trembling. You try to make yourself small, to become invisible. But you cannot. A warrior stops in front of you. He is built like a mountain, his leather armor stained with the grime of a dozen campaigns. He ignores your face. His gaze is fixed on your hands. He reaches out and grabs your right hand, turning it over. He feels the thick, hard calluses on your palm and fingers, the calluses from years of working wood, of guiding a plow, of mending carts and building fences. He grunts a single, guttural word to another warrior standing nearby, who holds a tablet and a stylus. The first warrior shoves you forward, pointing to a new line that is forming, a line of men with the hands of blacksmiths, weavers, carpenters, and potters. The artisans, the useful ones. Your skill has saved your life. You look back for a moment, a single tearing glance. Your wife is standing there, her face a mask of disbelief, clutching your children. You are 10 feet away from them, but it is a gulf as wide as the ocean. They are in one line. You are in another. A hand shoves you
into a new line. You do not look back.
You cannot. You are a single grain of sand in a river of sorrow. The march begins without ceremony. There is no destination given, only a direction. East. You shuffle forward, your body moving before your mind has caught up. The world you knew is behind you, a place of smoke and ghost, and the world ahead is a terrifying, empty canvas. Days bleed into one another, marked only by the rising and setting of a sun that seems both too bright and too cold. The rhythm of your new life is brutal in its simplicity. You wake on the hard, cold ground. You are given a handful of dry grain, barely enough to quell the gnawing ache in your stomach, and then you walk. You walk until your feet are raw, until the muscles in your legs are screaming, until your mind empties of everything but the next step. Then you sleep, and the next day you do it all again. The landscape is an enemy. Gone are the familiar river valleys, the gentle hills, the shade of the apricot orchards. Here the world is flat and endless. The sky is immense, a vast, indifferent bowl of blue that offers no comfort. The steppe stretches in every direction, a sea of dry grass that whispers in a wind that is always cold, no matter the time of day. You are walking into nowhere. The guards are a part of this landscape. They ride on their shaggy ponies, flanking the long, shuffling column of captives. They rarely speak. They are silhouettes against the sky, implacable and tireless. They are not cruel in the way of angry men. They are efficient, like shepherds guiding a flock to a slaughterhouse they do not care about. They are simply a force of nature, like the wind and the cold. This is not a punishment, you slowly come to realize. It is a policy. Your column is a resource, a collection of skills being transported. You are human capital, harvested from your homeland to be planted in the barren soil of your conqueror's empire. Sometimes the monotony is broken by sights of fresh horror. You pass the ruins of a town you have never seen before. Its walls are blackened and breached, its homes are empty shells. It is a skeleton picked clean. You see no bodies, but you feel the ghosts. You look at the faces of the people shuffling.
Alongside you, weavers from Merv, scholars from Nishapur, smiths from Balk. You see in their eyes the same dawning, sickening realization.
Your tragedy was not unique. It was a single note in a symphony of destruction that has played out across this entire land. The acute, sharp-edged grief you felt at first begins to wear away under the constant friction of the journey. It is too heavy to carry. In its place grows something colder, harder, a numb endurance, an animal instinct that focuses only on survival. Your world shrinks to the cracked heels of the person in front of you, the weight of your small bundle, the next ration of grain. You have forgotten what it feels like to be safe. You have forgotten the taste of clean water. You have forgotten the sound of your own children's laughter. After weeks, or maybe it has been months, you have lost track of time. You notice a change, a smudge on the distant horizon. It is not a mountain range or a cloud. As you draw closer, over the next few days, it resolves into an impossible sight, a city, rising from the absolute emptiness of the steppe. Its walls are new, its buildings a strange jumble of styles. It is a place that has been willed into existence out of nothing. On the horizon, a city that should not exist. A city built of sorrow. This is Karakorum. This is your gilded cage. You are given a small hut to live in, a workshop to practice your craft. You are a carpenter, and you are given wood. The tools are of good quality. You are told to make furniture for a general's yurt, to repair the wheels of a supply wagon. The work is familiar, a comfort to your hands, but the purpose is alien. You are building the world of the people who destroyed yours. The city itself is a fever dream. You walk through its bustling, unpaved streets and hear a dozen languages you do not recognize. A Chinese merchant haggles with an Armenian trader. A Hungarian miner drinks alongside a Persian scholar. You see women with the fair hair and blue eyes of the Rus, and men with the dark skin of northern India. It is the entire conquered world, broken into pieces and reassembled here in this bizarre mosaic. It is a city of ghosts, all of them still, breathing. There is a strange and unsettling kind of freedom here. You walk past a Nestorian Christian church, its bells ringing out across the steppe. Further down the same street, you hear the familiar sound of the call to prayer from a newly built mosque. Not far from that, a Buddhist temple stands, its monks chanting in the afternoon sun. This is not tolerance born from a philosophical ideal of harmony. It is the cold pragmatism of empire. The great Khan does not care which gods his subjects worship, so long as their prayers are for his long life and their hands are busy in his service. Your skills are valued here. You are given regular rations of food, mutton and fermented mare's milk, strange to your palate but filling. You are safe from the random violence of the road. Your life has a pattern again, but it is a pattern woven by someone else. In the center of the city stands the ultimate symbol of this strange new world. It is a magnificent, enormous tree forged entirely of silver by a captive goldsmith from Paris. At its base are 4 silver lions, and from their mouths flow different beverages on command. Wine, rice wine, mead, and mare's milk, up through the tree to a silver angel at the very top who raises a trumpet to his lips. It is a marvel of engineering, a thing of impossible beauty, and it is a monument built by a slave, a testament to the genius that has been stolen from a dozen different homelands. It is magnificent, and it is monstrous. At night, in the quiet of your hut, the work of the day is done. The city's cacophony fades, and it is then that the memories come. The warmth of your own home, the face of your wife. You are fed. You are sheltered. You are useful. You shape the wood or weave the cloth, and you survive. But you wonder if survival is the same as living. Years pass in the strange city of Karakorum. The sharp edges of your grief have been worn smooth by the relentless rhythm of your work. You are a survivor. You have learned the new rules. You have learned to be invisible. But today, you will be reminded of the iron law that underpins this entire impossible society. You are in the market, a place of 1,000 languages and 1,000,000 transactions. A Sogdian merchant, his robes the color of a sunset, is arguing loudly over the price of turquoise. As he gestures wildly, a small leather pouch heavy with coins slips from his belt and falls silently into the thick, dust of the street. You see it. The man next to you sees it. A child who was about to dart across the path freezes in place. A complete, unnatural stillness instantly settles over your small section of the market. The haggling stops. No one speaks. No one moves. No one dares to even look directly at the pouch. To touch it, to even be suspected of wanting to touch it, is a death sentence. Your heart pounds in your chest. The air is thick with a shared, unspoken terror. This is the yasa in its purest form, the unwritten, unbreakable law of the great.
Khan. The law is simple. What is not yours is not yours. There is no ambiguity. After a moment that feels like an eternity, the merchant notices the pouch is missing. He looks down, his face pale with panic. He sees it lying in the dust.
He snatches it up, checks that the contents are still there, and clutches it to his chest, breathing a heavy sigh of relief. And just like that, the spell is broken. The child runs on his way. The chatter resumes. The moment has passed. The narrator's voice would tell you that this absolute prohibition on theft was one of the cornerstones of the Mongol Empire. It was what made the Silk Road safer than it had been in 1,000 years. A merchant could travel from the Black Sea to the Pacific, and his goods would be untouched. The punishment was so absolute, so swift, that the risk was unthinkable. The yasa was not a set of guidelines. It was a weapon of social control. Later that week, you see the other side of the law. Two Mongol warriors, their faces flushed from drinking kumis, begin to argue. Voices are raised, a knife is drawn. Before a blow can be landed, a group of guards appears as if from nowhere. They are led by an officer whose face is a mask of cold fury. There is no trial here in this street. There is no appeal. The two brawlers are seized and forced to their knees. Their punishment is delivered on the spot, a brutal flogging with heavy rods that leaves them bloodied and unconscious in the dust. You learn that for warriors of the Horde, to fight amongst themselves was a betrayal of the highest order. Their loyalty was not to each other, but to the Khan. Their unity was the engine of their conquest, and any threat to it was stamped out with ruthless efficiency. You look around at the city. This city of artisans, of merchants, of priests from every faith. It is a place of incredible diversity, of incredible creation, and it is all held together by a terrifying, invisible web of laws that were rarely written down, passed orally from father to son among the Mongol elite, laws that governed everything from the proper way to butcher an animal to the penalty for adultery. It is a brutal peace, a terrifying order, and it governs every breath you take. The years have turned you into a ghost. You are no longer the artisan in the gilded cage of Karakoram. You are a farmer, your back bent, your hands gnarled. You are in the lands of the Russ, a place of dark forests and wide, slow rivers. The fires of the invasion have long since burned out. The great city of Kiev is a shadow of its former self, but life continues. It has found a new rhythm, a grim, quiet rhythm of survival under the shadow of the Golden Horde. You have a small plot of land. You have a wife and children who were born into this world of subjugation. They have never known anything else. Your life is measured by the seasons. You plow the black earth in the spring. You pray for rain in the summer. You gather the harvest in the autumn, and you dread the coming of winter. But there is another season you have come to dread even more. The season of the census. One day, he arrives. He is not a warrior. He is a daruhachi, a tax collector. He rides a fine horse and wears a robe of patterned silk that seems impossibly rich against the drab poverty of your village. He is alone, save for a single attendant. He does not need an army. The mere mention of his master's name is enough to ensure perfect obedience. A cold silence falls over the village. People disappear into their huts, as if hiding could save them. The official dismounts and sets up a small folding table. He unrolls a parchment scroll and takes out a strange device of beads strung on wires. An abacus. He calls you forward. He does not ask for your name. He asks how many live in your hut. He counts your children as if they were livestock. He goes to your small barn and counts your chickens. He measures the grain in your storage bin with a marked stick. Every bushel is noted down on his scroll. His movements are slow, precise, and impersonal. You are not a man to him. You are a column of figures in a ledger. As he works, the narrator could tell you that this was the true genius of the Mongol Empire. Not the cavalry archer, but the census taker. Not the siege engine, but the abacus. Their conquests were funded by a systematic, ruthless, and incredibly efficient system of taxation. Every person, every animal, every field was counted and recorded. A tribute, usually 1/10 of everything you owned and produced, was demanded. It could be paid in grain, in furs, in animals, in silver. Or, if you had nothing else, it could be paid in people. A son taken for the army, a daughter for a household. The official finishes his calculations. The little wooden beads of the abacus click and clack with a dry, final sound. He tells you the amount you owe. It is a number that makes your stomach clench with cold despair. It is nearly everything you have managed to put aside for the long, hard winter. There is no appeal. There is no mercy. You and your neighbors gather what you have. The tribute is collected. He leaves as quietly as he came, taking with him the fruits of your entire year's labor and your hope for the next. You stand in the doorway of your now emptied storage hut. The air inside is cool and smells of dust and absence. The silk-robed
official is gone, a fading speck on the horizon, but his presence lingers like a chill. He took your grain, your animals, your future.
But as you stand there, a strange and unsettling question begins to form in your mind, a question that has nothing to do with grain or livestock. Who is the man he did this for? Who is the great Khan? You try to form an image of him in your mind, but you cannot. Is he old or young? Is his face kind or cruel? Does he have a voice that thunders, or does he whisper? You have no answers. He is a complete and utter blank, a void. This is a new kind of power. Before the coming of the horde,
you knew your rulers. The local prince, you had seen his face.
You had seen him ride through the village with his retinue, his banner bright against the sky. He was a man of flesh and blood. You knew the church where he prayed. You knew the names of his children. You might have feared him, or respected him, or even hated him, but you knew him. He was a real person who occupied a real space in your world. His power was tangible. It had limits. This new power, it has no face. The coins that pass through your hand bear no likeness of the Khan. There are no statues of him in the ruined squares of the cities. His name is a word, spoken only in hushed tones, a sound that feels dangerous on the tongue. He rules you. He rules everyone from the rising to the setting of the sun. and yet he is nowhere. He is a ghost. How can a ghost command such authority? The tax collector needed no army. He carried only the power of a name. In the distant city of Karakoram, you have heard, the law is absolute because it is the Khan's law, the yasa, a merchant's. Pouch can lie in the street untouched, protected by the terror of a name. A single word, spoken by a man thousands of miles away, can cross mountains and deserts and rivers and cause a farmer in a forgotten corner of the Rus to hand over the food meant for his children. It is a power that seems to defy the very laws
of nature. It is a weight on the air, a pressure in your mind. It is a form of magic, dark and profound. The Khan is not a man, you begin to realize. He is an idea, an incantation.
A spell cast over half the world. You look up at the vast, empty sky, a canvas of pale blue that stretches from one end of your vision to the other. You try to imagine an empire so large that it lives under this entire sky. From your small patch of black earth to the warm seas of the south, from the Great Wall of China to the gates of Europe, it is all his. It all bends to a single, unseen will. Does he know that this village exists? Does he know your name? The question is so absurd that it makes you feel dizzy. You are a microscopic speck of dust on his map, a single grain of wheat in his vast storehouse. Your existence is utterly beneath his notice, and yet his will dictates whether you eat or starve, whether you live or die. He rules you with perfect, crushing intimacy, and he does not even know you are here. You are a subject of a ghost, an idea with the power to end worlds. And that, perhaps, is the strangest hell of all. The world has settled. The sharp, screaming terror of the conquest has faded, like a fever that has broken, leaving behind a strange and weary calm. The years have passed. You are older now. The calluses on your hands are from new kinds of work. Your memories of home, a collection of soft, aching ghosts. You are a captive artisan, a resource of the Khan, and you are being moved again. This time. You are part of a great caravan, a slow, moving serpent of camels, wagons and men, shuffling east along the ancient Silk Road. The journey is long, the sun is relentless, and the rhythm of the days is one of a monotonous, plodding slowness. The creak of the wagon wheels is the only clock you have. The plod of the camels is the only drumbeat. The dust is the only weather. You expect to be afraid. Your entire life, you have known that travel is danger. But a week passes, then two, and you slowly become aware of a shocking, unnerving fact. You feel no fear. You look at the guards. They are Mongols, warriors of the horde, the same kind of men who unmade your world. But here, on this road, they are not tense. They are not scanning the rocky hills for ambushes. They ride with a loose, easy posture, their bows slung over their backs. They are escorts, not fighters. You watch the merchants in the caravan. At night, they do not post extra guards around their precious cargo of silks and spices. They sleep soundly, their rest untroubled by the thought of bandits. This peace feels alien. It is a silence where there should be screams. One evening, you are sitting by the fire when an old merchant, a man who has traveled this road for 50 years, points a bony finger toward a narrow, shadowy pass in the mountains ahead. In my youth, he says, his voice a low rasp, we would call that the Gullet of Ghosts. You would hire 100 guards to pass through it, and you would be lucky if half of you came out the other side. Every rock, he says, his eyes distant, hid a robber. Every cave was a bandit's lair. It was a place of slaughter. He looks at the past, now bathed in the gentle light of the setting sun, and shakes his head in disbelief. Now, he trails off, now they say a lone virgin carrying a sack of gold could walk from one end of this land to the other, and not a soul would dare to touch her. He spits into the fire. It is a devil's piece, if you ask me. You understand what he means. This safety was not born of treaties or goodwill. It is the child of absolute terror. It is a peace enforced by the Yasa. The law of the Khan, which decreed that theft and robbery were crimes so absolute that they would be punished not just by the death of the thief, but sometimes by the annihilation of his entire family and village. The fear of that retribution is a greater deterrent than any wall, a more effective guard than any army. The stories of the swift, brutal justice of the Mongols have traveled faster than their horses, scouring the roads clean through fear alone. The peace is as vast and empty as the steppe itself. A silence bought with screams you can still sometimes hear in the wind. Weeks into your journey, the caravan approaches a structure on the horizon. It is not a town, nor is it a fortress for a great army. It is a low, sturdy, functional building of earth and wood, surrounded by a high wall and a vast, well-tended corral filled with dozens of strong, healthy-looking horses. It is a yam station, a post house of the Great Khan. As your caravan slows to make camp nearby, you see it in action. A single rider appears from the west, a dark speck growing larger. With incredible speed, he is not traveling, he is flying across the earth. He gallops directly toward the station, and his horse is a mess of white lather and heaving flanks, clearly on the verge of collapse. The rider's face is a mask of dust and pure, focused exhaustion. The gates of the station are already open. Before the rider has even pulled his spent horse to a halt, the station keepers, all Mongol soldiers, move like parts of a perfect machine. One man seizes the reins of the tired horse and leads it away. Another is already standing with a fresh mount, a powerful beast that snorts and stamps, eager to run. A third man hands the rider a ladle of water, which he drinks in a single, desperate gulp. The rider pulls a sealed leather pouch from inside his coat. This is the entire purpose of the exercise. The pouch is handed to a new rider, a man who was already waiting, poised and ready. He secures the pouch, leaps onto the fresh horse, and with a sharp crack of his whip, he is gone. A new speck disappearing to the east. The entire exchange from the arrival of the first rider to the departure of the second has taken less than 2 minutes. It was executed with a swift, silent efficiency that feels both incredible and terrifying. There were no shouted orders, no moments of confusion. Each man knew his task perfectly. You stare at the spot on the horizon where the rider vanished, and you begin to understand the true nature of the empire that holds you captive. It is not just a horde of warriors, it is a network, a nervous system that stretches across the world. The narrator could tell you that these yam stations were placed every 20 to 30 miles, a chain of logistical miracles that connected the farthest corners of the empire to the center. A vital message could travel over 100 miles a day. An order given by the Khan in his capital could reach a general in Hungary or a governor in Persia in a matter of weeks, a speed that was simply supernatural to the rest of the world. It was this control of information, this ability to move news and orders faster than anyone else that allowed a single will to govern a continent. You understand now, the empire is not held by swords alone, but by the speed of a horse and the will that drives it. The sun bleeds across the horizon, painting the vast, empty sky in shades of orange and purple. The caravan settles for the night, a small, temporary island of life in the immense stillness of the steppe. The air grows cool, fires are lit, small constellations of warmth and flickering light. The smells of the evening meal are a strange mixture. The familiar scent of roasting mutton, but also the sharp, foreign aroma of spices you don't recognize, brought from a land you cannot name. Someone across the camp begins to hum a lullaby, a melody that is achingly sad and beautiful, in a tongue you have never heard before. You sit by your fire, chewing on a piece of tough, salted meat, and you look at the faces of the men sharing this small circle of light with you. They are strangers, and yet you know them more intimately than you ever knew your neighbors back home. There is a man with skin as pale as milk and a tangled red beard, a craftsman from the land of the Franks, a place you had only heard of in stories. He was captured in a war against a Hungarian king. There is a man with dark, almond-shaped eyes and the high cheekbones of the Cathayans from the east. He is a Buddhist monk from a city called Turpan. And there is you, the artisan from a city that is now only a memory. None of you share a language. You communicate in a simple pidgin of gestures and single words picked up on the road. Yet you understand each other perfectly. You understand the shared weariness in the way you all sit. You understand the profound, unspoken grief that lies behind each set of eyes. That night, the Frankish craftsman is trying to mend a piece of his equipment, a complex tool you have never seen. He is struggling. The monk, who you had assumed was only a man of prayer, watches him for a moment. Then the monk takes a stick,
And, in the dust by the firelight, he draws a diagram. A simple, elegant drawing of a gear system.
the craftsman stares at the drawing, and a look of pure, sudden understanding dawns on his face. He nods eagerly, a smile breaking through his weariness. You are witnessing a miracle, an impossible exchange of knowledge, the narrator would tell. You that this moment, and a million others like it, is the unintended consequence of so much destruction. As the Mongols tore worlds apart, they also stitched them together in strange new ways. They forcibly relocated entire populations of skilled workers, creating a vast cross-continental churn of ideas. Gunpowder, a secret of the Chinese, is being explained in a whisper in a Persian military camp. The principles of the magnetic compass are being demonstrated by an Arab sailor to an Italian merchant. Block printing, once confined to the East, is now a concept being carried in the mind of a captive on his way to build a Mongol palace. It is a forced, tragic, and unprecedented globalization of the mind. Worlds have died for this moment to happen. You wonder if the exchange is worth the price. For weeks, your caravan has been a self-contained universe, governed by its own rhythms and hierarchies. The caravan master is the leader. The Mongol guards are the law. But you have come to notice that there is another, quieter authority among you. He is a merchant, a man from the Italian city of Genoa, with a sharp, watchful face and eyes that seem to miss nothing. He speaks several languages, and he carries himself with an air of confidence that is different from the arrogance of the Mongol warriors. It is a deeper, more certain kind of power. You see its true nature when the caravan reaches a wide, fast-flowing river. A single, large ferry is the only way across, and its operators, local men in the employ of a regional governor, are demanding an exorbitant toll. The caravan master argues, his voice rising in frustration. The local captain smirks, enjoying his small moment of authority. The caravan could be delayed for days. The argument reaches a stalemate. The local soldiers puff out their chests, leaning on their spears. It is then that the Italian merchant, who has been watching the scene with a calm detachment, dismounts from his horse. He walks slowly toward the captain. He does not speak. He simply reaches inside his fine woolen coat and produces a small object that hangs from a silk cord around his neck. It is a tablet, perhaps 5 inches long, made of what looks like solid gold. It catches the afternoon sun and glints with a light that seems to command the eye. The captain's smirk vanishes. The color drains from his face. His posture changes in an instant, from lazy arrogance to rigid, terrified attention. He drops into a low, hasty bow, his forehead nearly scraping the dusty ground. He begins shouting at his men, his voice now filled with panic and fear. The ferry is yours, he tells them. Anything the caravan needs is yours. You stare at the golden tablet as the merchant calmly tucks it back inside his coat. You had only a glimpse of it, but you saw that it was inscribed with a delicate, unfamiliar script. A whisper goes through the caravan. It is a paisa, a tablet of authority issued by the great Khan himself. The narrator would explain that this was the ultimate passport of the Mongol Empire. Given only to important officials, envoys, and merchants on imperial business, it gave the bearer the right to demand food, lodging, fresh horses, and assistance from any local authority. To deny a request from a man carrying a paisa was to personally defy the will of the great Khan. It was a mistake no one made twice. The caravan moves on to the ferry without another word, the local soldiers now bowing and scraping, eager to help. You reflect on the kings of your old life, on their great crowns and armies. Your old king's crown could not command such respect, 100 miles from his home. This small tablet holds the world. The fires burn low. The rest of the caravan is asleep, a collection of quiet, breathing mounds under a vast star-dusted sky. You lie on your back, staring up into the cold, distant light of the constellations. They are the same stars that once looked down upon your home, but they feel different here, colder, more remote. You have been on this road for months. A journey of impossible length through lands that were once a tapestry of warring kingdoms and treacherous roads. And it has been perfectly, unnervingly safe. You have seen the swift, silent efficiency of the yam stations. You have witnessed the absolute power of the golden paisa. You have seen a continent brought to heel, its chaos replaced by a brutal, rational order. A part of you knows you should be grateful for this peace. And that is what terrifies you the most. The gratitude feels like a poison. Your mind drifts back to the world you lost. It was a world of passion and chaos, of fierce loyalties and petty hatreds, a world where a foolish prince might lead his army to ruin for the sake of his pride, where a bandit might rule a mountain, pass with bloody cruelty, where faith was a fire in the heart. It was a deeply flawed, often unjust and dangerous world, but it was a human world. Its flaws were human flaws, its passions were human passions. This new world, the world of the Khan, has no passion. It has only function. The roads are safe, not because of goodwill, but because it is efficient for trade. The yam exists not for convenience, but for control. The Yasa's justice is swift, not because of a love for righteousness, but because it is the most pragmatic way to enforce obedience. The Empire is a vast, intricate machine, a clockwork universe stretching from horizon to horizon.
And you are a cock. Your skills as a craftsman are valued, yes, but only for your utility. You are a useful component, and so you are maintained. If you were to break, you would be discarded and replaced without a second thought. You're old.
Life Your memories, your culture, the god you once prayed to. What function do they serve in this great machine? They are useless. And in this new world, what is useless is worthless. A question settles in your heart as cold and heavy as a stone. If everyone is safe but no one is free, what is the meaning of it? What is the value of a life lived as a gear in a clock? Even a magnificent clock that covers the whole world. Does a gear have a soul? You pull your thin blanket tighter around you. A chill sinking deep into your bones that has nothing to do with the night air. You feel a strange nostalgia for the fear of bandits. It was, at least, a human fear. After a journey that has stolen a season from your life, you arrive at the city. This is Khanbalik, the new capital of the Great Khan, the heart of the machine. Your first sight of it is one of pure, disbelieving awe. It does not rise from the plain so much as it commands it. Its walls are colossal, thicker and taller than any you have ever seen, forming a perfect, enormous square against the horizon. They are the color of the earth, and they seem as ancient and immovable as a mountain range. But as you draw closer, you see that the stones are new, the lines too perfect. This city did not grow over centuries. It was built all at once by a single, indomitable will. You pass through a gate so vast it makes you feel like an insect, and you find yourself on a street that confirms the strange feeling of cold perfection. The avenue before you is wide enough for 100 horsemen to ride abreast. It is paved with gravel and runs in a perfectly straight line, aimed like an arrow at the distant heart of the city. The streets that intersect it do so at precise 90-degree angles. There are no winding alleys, no crooked lanes, no charmingly chaotic neighborhoods that have grown together over time like old friends. There is only the grid, a vast, logical, and inhuman blueprint imposed upon the earth. Your caravan is directed to a specific area. You pass the quarter for the armorers, then the quarter for the astronomers, then the quarter for the papermakers. You are being taken to the designated zone for artisans from the west. Your new home is a number on a map. You look at the buildings. They are grand and imposing, but uniform. They lack the quirks, the personality, the sheer, messy history of the city of your birth. You remember your home city. You remember the market square that was never quite square, the narrow alley that was a secret shortcut, the leaning house of the baker that everyone knew. That city was a living thing, its character shaped by the countless forgotten lives of your ancestors. It had a soul. This new city, this marvel of engineering and planning, is a masterpiece of logic. It is clean, it is orderly, it is magnificent. And as you stand in the middle of its grand, empty-feeling boulevards, you realize it has no heart. There is no spirit here, only a design. It is the architectural embodiment of the empire itself, vast, efficient, and utterly devoid of the human chaos you have begun to miss. You have arrived at the center of the world, and you have never felt more lost. The city of Khanbalik has become your world. Decades have passed since you arrived, a captive with nothing but the skill in your hands and the ghosts in your memory. You are an old man now. The fear you once lived with has long since cooled into a kind of weary resignation. The Mongol peace, once so strange and terrifying, has become the only reality. It is stable, it is orderly, it is eternal. Or so you thought. You are sitting in a small, smoky tavern in your designated quarter, sipping a cup of hot, bitter tea. The air is thick with the smell of lamp oil and the low murmur of a dozen conversations. At a table near you, 2 Mongol soldiers are drinking fermented mare's milk. They are not the impassive, disciplined guards of the imperial highways. They are off-duty, their faces flushed, their tongues loosened by drink. And they are arguing. Their
voices are low but laced with a venom that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. You try not to listen, but you cannot help it. They are speaking of the succession. The great Khan Monke is dead. And his brothers, his cousins, they are
not in agreement. One soldier, a thick-set man with a scar on his cheek, slams his cup down on the wooden table.
Kublai is the Khan, he hisses. He rules from this city, the greatest city in the world. He is the Lord of Cathay. The empire is here now. The other man, younger and leaner, shakes his head, his eyes burning with a different fire.
The empire is the steppe, he whispers fiercely. The homeland, and the Kurultai in the homeland chose Arik Boke. He is the true Khan, the keeper of the old ways. Your Kublai is a pretender, a soft Chinese scholar, not a Mongol. The word traitor hangs unspoken in the air between them. You feel a cold shock travel through your entire body. For 50 years, you have lived under the absolute certainty of a single, indivisible will. The Mongols were a force of nature, a monolith, an organism that thought with one mind and acted with one purpose. But what you are hearing now, this is blasphemy, this is heresy, this is the sound of the mountain cracking. The narrator's voice would tell you that this was the Tuluid Civil War, the first great schism that began to tear the empire apart. When Munka Khan died, 2 great councils were held, electing 2 different brothers as Great Khan. For the first time, Mongol armies were marching against other Mongol armies. The illusion of unity, their most powerful weapon, was being shattered by their own ambition. You look at the 2 soldiers, their faces twisted with a hatred that is not for a foreign enemy but for each other. They are not gods. They are not a force of nature. They are just men consumed by the same pride and greed as the kings and princes they replaced. A feeling you have not felt since you were a young man flickers in your chest. It is a tiny, dangerous spark in the cold darkness of your resignation. It is hope. For 50 years the Khan was one. Now there are many, and you wonder if the world can survive their ambition. The world has changed. The timeline has shifted, and we are now in Persia, in the great city of Isfahan. You are the grandchild of a survivor. You have grown up with the stories of the first invasion, of the terror and the destruction. But they are just that, stories. For you, the Ilkhanate, the Mongol domain of Persia, is simply the world as it is. The rulers are the descendants of the conqueror, Hulagu. But the fear of them is a distant echo, not a daily reality. Today is a festival day. The city is alive with color and sound. The scent of saffron and rosewater hangs in the air. The great square is filled with people, and there is a current of excitement, of cautious joy. The Ilkhan himself, the Mongol, ruler of this land, is to attend public prayers at the great mosque. You watch from the crowd as his procession arrives, and you see a sight that would have been unimaginable to your grandparents. The Khan is not dressed in the rough leather and furs of a steppe warrior. He is robed in magnificent Persian silk, intricately embroidered with golden thread. He has the face of his ancestors, the strong jaw, the eyes that hint at the endless sky of the east. But his beard is trimmed in the local fashion, and when he speaks to the official beside him, he does not speak a harsh, foreign tongue. He speaks your language. He speaks fluent, elegant Persian. You watch, holding your breath with the rest of the crowd, as he dismounts. He removes his shoes at the entrance to the mosque just as any other believer would, and he enters the house of Allah to pray. This is the quiet, final victory. A victory not of arms, but of culture. The narrator would explain that what you are witnessing happened across the fractured empire. While the Mongols had conquered vast civilizations, they themselves were nomads, a small population ruling over immense ancient cultures, and slowly, inexorably, these cultures began to conquer them back. In China, the Khans of the Yuan dynasty became patrons of Chinese art and adopted the complex rituals of the imperial court. And here, in the Ilkhanate, the Mongol rulers fell under the spell of Persian civilization. They adopted its religion, Islam. They became patrons of its poets and its scientists. Their courts, once filled only with Mongol warriors, now included Persian viziers and scholars. The children of the conquerors were growing up speaking Persian, learning to read the Quran, and thinking of Isfahan, not distant Karakoram, as their
home. The raw, elemental force of the steppe was being tamed, absorbed, and transformed by the very people it had subjugated.
You look at the ruler, his head bowed in prayer on a Persian rug. He has conquered your land, but your land is now beginning to conquer him. The world feels prosperous. You are in the Genoese port city of Kaffa, on the coast of the Black Sea, a great artery of the Mongol peace. For years you have worked on these docks, and you have seen the wealth of the world flow through this harbour. Silks from China, so fine you can pull a whole bolt of it through a small ring. Spices from the Indies that perfume the air and make your eyes water. Furs from the cold forests of the Rus, soft and deep. The ships and the caravans come and go in a steady, reliable rhythm. The roads are safe. The sea is
never truly safe, but the pirates who once plagued this coast are long gone, terrified into extinction by the swift and brutal justice of the Khan. Life is predictable.
You are a cog in a great continent-spanning machine of commerce, and the machine runs smoothly. But lately, the caravans arriving from the east have brought a new kind of cargo, a rumor. At first it is just a whisper, easily dismissed. A strange sickness in distant Cathay.
A fever that is sweeping through the armies of the great Khan. Such stories are always on the lips of travelers, but then the stories become more specific, more detailed, more horrifying. The sailors from a Venetian ship speak of a trading post
near the Caspian Sea, where they arrived to find every resident dead, not killed by bandits, not starved, but simply dead, lying in their beds and in the streets, covered in strange black spots. A merchant from Sarai tells of a pestilence that moves so fast, a man can have dinner with his family in the evening and be buried before the next dawn. They are beginning to give it a name. They call it the Great Mortality. They call it the Black Death. You try to imagine it, but you cannot. A sickness is a familiar thing, a fever, a cough, a pox. But this sounds like a judgment, a punishment from God himself. One morning you see it, the proof that the rumor is real. A Genoese galley, a great trading ship, is being loaded in a frantic, panicked hurry. Men are throwing crates aboard with no care for their contents. The captain is on the dock, his face the color of wax, screaming at the port officials. He is not arguing about taxes or tariffs. He is begging for permission to leave now. You overhear his words sharp with terror. He says the Mongol army besieging the city has been afflicted. He says they are all dying. He says the city is doomed. The port official, a man who has grown fat and comfortable on the security of the
Mongol peace, tells him to wait his turn. But the captain just shakes his head, his eyes wild. He points a trembling finger to the east. "It is coming," he says, and it travels on the wind.
You look at the rich cargo being loaded onto the ship, the silks, the spices, and for the first time you see them differently. The safe roads, the constant flow of trade, the system that connects the world. It is the perfect highway for a pestilence. The empire has become a single body, and a sickness in its farthest limb will soon reach its heart. The Mongols brought a hell of fire and sword, but the peace they created has invited a hell of the flesh itself. It is here. The black wind has blown across the sea. You are in a city on the coast of Italy, but it could be anywhere. The rumor has become a horrifying reality. The whispers have become screams. At first, it was just the story, a terrifying tale told by the sailors who escaped the siege of Kaffa. They said the Mongol army, ravaged by the plague and unable to take the city, resorted to a final desperate act of malice. They began loading their own dead soldiers onto their catapults. They hurled the plague-ridden corpses over the city walls, poisoning the wells and the air. A rain of death, a new kind of siege warfare. You didn't want to believe it. It was too
monstrous. But then the first person in your neighborhood fell ill. It was the baker's wife.
One day she was serving bread. The next, she was shivering with a fever that made no sense. Then came the spots, dark, purplish blotches on her skin like bruised blood. And then the swellings, a hard, painful lump in her armpit, a bubo. Everyone
knows what it means now. It is a death sentence. The world falls apart with a terrifying speed. The great, orderly system you have lived under means nothing to this new enemy.
The Yasa cannot punish a microbe. The Mongol lords are just as vulnerable as you are. They lock themselves in their mansions, but the plague seeps through the cracks. Society breaks down. The sound of the city changes. The cheerful noise of commerce is replaced by the slow, rhythmic ringing of bells for the dead, a sound that never stops. The streets are either eerily empty as people bar their doors and hide, or they are filled with the horrifying spectacle of the death carts, piled high with the bodies of the dead, their limbs askew. A red cross is painted on the baker's door, then on the door of the weaver across the street, then on the door of your own neighbor. You hear weeping through the walls until that too falls silent. The smell of the city changes. It is a mixture of cloying sweet herbs that people burn to try and ward off the sickness, and underneath it all, the unmistakable foul stench of corruption and death. You sit in your small home, the door barred, a wet cloth over your face. You listen to the sounds of the world dying outside your window. The silence from a quarantined home is the most frightening sound of all. You are a prisoner, and the jailer is in the very air you breathe. The empire that ruled the world cannot rule the blood. In the face of this, all are equal in their terror. The great wave has receded, leaving a broken and silent world in its wake. Years have passed since the Black Death scoured your land, but the ghosts are everywhere. You are in your village, or what is left of it. Half the houses are empty, their roofs collapsing, their doorways choked with weeds. The fields are overgrown, the harvest a fraction of what it once was. There are simply not enough people left to work the land, and one day he returns. The tax collector, the Darugachi, but he is not the man you remember from your youth. That man was confident, well-fed, his silk robes a symbol of an unshakable power. This man is gaunt. His robe is frayed. His eyes, which were once cold and impassive, now hold a flicker of fear. He looks as haunted as the rest of you. He goes through the motions. He takes out his scroll and his abacus, but it is a hollow ritual. He is counting ghosts. He demands the tribute, his voice lacking the iron certainty it once had. He is a representative of a system that is still running, but he seems to know that the fuel is gone. He stands before the village elder, a woman who has lost her husband and all 3 of her sons to the plague. She looks at the tax collector, her eyes as empty as her home. He states the amount of grain she owes, and she says a single word, a word no one has dared to say to one of these men for 100 years. She says, "No." A profound silence falls over the small gathering. You hold your breath, expecting a flash of rage, a command, a sword, but nothing happens. The tax collector looks at the old woman. He looks at the empty houses around him. He looks at the pale, thin faces of the few survivors. And you see not a symbol of empire, but a weary, defeated man. He stands there for a long moment. Then he slowly packs his scroll and his abacus. He mounts his horse, and without another word, he rides away. The ghost is fading. The great and terrible machine is finally running out of fuel. The world has become quiet. The great storms of your youth, the terror of the invasion, the surreal order of the great peace, the horror of the black wind have all passed. The Mongol Empire, that vast and terrible machine, has fractured into a dozen warring kingdoms. The roads are no longer safe. The world is small and dangerous again. You are a very old man. You sit on a worn wooden bench outside the small house you have built for yourself in the same valley where you were born. The village is smaller than the one you remember, but it is alive. You spend your days now watching the sun travel across the sky, feeling its warmth on your old, tired bones. Your granddaughter, a small girl with bright, curious eyes, comes and sits beside you. She offers you a slice of melon. Its flesh is the color of honey, and its scent is a key. You take a bite. The sweetness floods your mouth, cool and familiar. And in an instant, the world dissolves. The quiet village, the warm sun, the face of your granddaughter. It all vanishes. You are 7 years old. The melon is from your father's field, and he has just sliced it open with his knife. You are sitting in the shade of the great apricot tree behind your childhood home. The light is a hazy golden green filtering through the leaves. You can hear your mother's voice calling from inside the house, a sound you have not truly heard in 80 years. You can smell the dust of the yard, the perfume of your mother's roses, the comforting scent of bread baking in the oven. Your older brother laughs as he tries to climb the tree. Your father rests a heavy, warm hand on your head. In this moment, the world is perfect. It is safe. It is eternal. It is the only world that has ever been or ever will be. You feel a sense of peace so profound, so absolute, that your heart aches with the purity of it. You take another bite of the melon on your lap, and the memory shimmers like a reflection in disturbed water. You are back on the bench, an old man with skin as wrinkled as a dried leaf. Your granddaughter looks at you, a little concerned. "Are you all right, grandfather?" she asks. You try to speak, but your throat is thick. You want to tell her about the man with the warm hand, the woman with the kind voice, the boy in the tree. You want to describe the exact color of the light, but you cannot. They are ghosts. The house is gone, leveled to make way for a siege engine. The fields were salted, then ploughed under, then left fallow for a generation. The people
are dust. The entire world of that perfect summer afternoon has been scoured from the face of the earth.
All that is left, all that has survived the fire and the marches and the plagues and the long, weary years, is this taste, this flavor. The world is gone, but the taste of a summer afternoon remains. A ghost on your tongue. Peace has settled in your valley. It is a fragile peace, to be sure, but it is peace nonetheless. Your days are quiet. You are too old now for the heavy work of the fields. Your greatest joy is to sit and watch your great-grandchild, a boy of 5, as he plays in the dusty yard, chasing chickens with a small stick. He is the future. He is the reason for your survival. He is the proof that life somehow continues. You watch him as he plays. He has your family's dark, curly hair. He has his mother's smile. You see in his stubborn chin the echo of your own father, a man he will never know. Your lineage, your history is written there in his small, happy face. It is a comfort, a continuity, a sign that not all was lost. But then the boy stops his game and looks up at you, his head tilted in that curious way that children have. And in the bright, clear light of the afternoon, you see it. It is in the shape of his eyes. They are not the round, dark eyes of your people. There is a subtle, beautiful tilt to them, a shape that pulls at a memory buried deep within you. It is in the broad, high plane of his cheekbones, a structure that is strong and fine, but not of your valley. It is the face of the steppe. It is the undeniable, unmistakable, and strangely peaceful echo of a Mongol warrior. You close your eyes for a moment. You remember the terror, the sight of the horsemen on the horizon, the impassive, alien faces of the men who sorted the survivors outside your ruined city, the guards who marched you east, and you realize a profound and simple truth. One of those men, or perhaps his son, did not go home. He settled in this land. He took a local wife. He had children. And his blood, the blood of the conqueror, now flows in the veins of this beloved child, mingled forever with your own. A great and terrible river of violence once washed over this land. The narrator might say that when that river receded, the landscape was forever changed. The bloodlines, like streams, were diverted and merged in ways no one could have predicted. The clear, simple lines of us and them were blurred and then erased by the quiet, relentless passage of time and the simple, human need for companionship and family. You open your eyes and look at the boy. He smiles at you, a pure and innocent smile, and returns to his game. You feel no anger. You feel no bitterness or defeat. Those feelings are luxuries for younger men, and you have outlived them all. You feel only a deep, weary, and profound sense of wonder. The great wars are over, and this is what remains, not a victory or a defeat, just a face, a new beginning. A young man has sought you out. He is a merchant, his eyes bright with the fire of ambition and the romance of a past he never knew. He has heard that you are one of the last people alive who remembers the great peace, the Pax Mongolica. He sits before you, his face full of questions, speaking of the old days as if they were a legend, a lost golden age. They say the roads were so safe, he says, his voice filled with yearning. They say a man could travel from the sunrise to the sunset and never be troubled. That knowledge and wealth flowed across the world like a river. It must have been a magnificent time to be alive. He looks at you then, his youthful earnestness shining in his eyes, and he asks the question. The impossible question that has no answer. All the things that happened before, the wars, the destruction, was it worth it? For a world like that? His question hangs in the air, and your mind drifts away. You no longer see his eager face. Instead, you see other things. You see the smoke rising from the library of your home city, centuries of knowledge turning to ash. You feel a crushing terror of the sorting field, the moment your family was torn from you, their faces receding into a crowd of the doomed. You feel the endless, soul-crushing ache in your bones from the great march east. You smell the sick, sweet air of the plague, and you hear the sound of the death cart's wheels on the cobblestones. You feel the weight of 100 years of sorrow, a mountain of grief so vast it could blot out the sun. This is one side of the scale. It is a scale piled high with bones and tears. Then the images in your mind shift. You see the flickering light of a campfire on the steppe, and you see the face of a Frankish craftsman as a Buddhist monk shows him a secret of engineering, the two of them sharing a moment of pure human connection without a single shared word. You see the glint of a golden paisa, a small object that held the power to bend the will of princes and part the waters of bureaucracy like a staff of God. You remember the strange, profound feeling of traveling for months on end through dangerous
lands and feeling no fear.
You remember the new ideas, the new foods, the new faces that the Empire brought together in its strange, violent embrace. This is the other side of the scale. It is piled with gold and knowledge and a brutal, perfect order that the world had never known. You look at the young man, how can you explain it to him? How can you make him understand that the hand that destroyed everything you loved was the same hand that built the safe roads he dreams of? How can you weigh a mountain of ashes against
a mountain of gold? It is a fool's errand. History does not keep such a simple ledger. It is a tangled, bloody, and beautiful mess.
There is no number you can arrive at. There is no final judgment you can render. There is only what was in all its horror and all its wonder. You cannot give him an answer. You can only tell him what you saw. The rest is for him to judge. You sit on the bench outside your home. It is late afternoon, and the light has turned the color of old honey. The sun is low in the sky, and so are you. Your journey, which began in a world of fire and ended in a world of ghosts, is almost over. You look out at the valley, a landscape you have now watched for nearly a century, and you see that the world has changed again. The great, straight road the Mongols built, the road that ran through this valley like a purposeful scar, is almost gone. It is a faint track now, cracked by weeds and softened by grass, slowly being reclaimed by the patient earth. The world has healed over its
wound. You listen to the sounds from the village.
The people are speaking your own language, the dialect of your childhood, full of its familiar rhythms and forgotten proverbs. They speak it loudly now without a second thought. There is no need for the trade language of the Empire anymore. High on the hill, the local lord lives in his small castle. It is a crumbling ruin compared to the grand palaces of the Khan, but it is his. His family ruled this valley before the storm came, and now, after the storm has passed, they rule it again. The world has shrunk. The vast, interconnected empire, with its yam stations and its golden passports, has dissolved back into 1,000 small, disconnected pieces. The roads are not safe anymore. Bandits have returned to the mountain passes. It is, in many ways, a more dangerous world. But as you watch the children playing in the village square, you sense that it is also a freer one. The oppressive, perfect order of the machine has broken down. The world is chaotic and human again. It breathes with its own lungs. You close your eyes. You feel the warmth of the last rays of sun on your face. You can see it all. A great, strange dream. The terror of the first horseman, the long road of tears, the impossible city of the Khan, the whispers of civil war, the black wind, the face of your grandchild. You were a witness. You stood on the shore and watched as one of the world's great oceans of history swelled, washed over everything, and then inevitably receded. It was a storm that remade the world, a storm that passed, leaving a new and different landscape in its wake. Now the grasses are growing back. The birds have returned. The sky is quiet, and you are tired. It is time to rest. And so, our journey through time comes to a close. The old man has found his rest, and the great, strange dream of the empire has passed into memory. The story is over. The echoes are fading, and you are here, safe in the quiet of your own space. Feel the softness of the pillow beneath your head, the gentle weight of the blanket over you. Just notice your own breathing, a slow, easy rhythm that rises and falls without any effort. There are no great armies here, no burning cities or vast empty plains. There is only this room, only this quiet, only this moment of peace. You have traveled so far tonight, through so much
sorrow and wonder, and now you have returned. You are home, and you are safe.
Just allow yourself to feel that safety sinking into it like a soft bed of moss. Tonight we have walked a long and often sorrowful road together. We have witnessed worlds end and new worlds begin in the ashes. We saw the terror of the storm, the hell of fire and sword, but we also saw the quiet strength of the survivors. We saw the peace that followed, as strange and brutal as it was, and we saw life, in all its quiet resilience, return. History teaches us this again and again, that even after the most devastating fire, the grass finds a way to push up through the scorched earth. Even after the harshest winter, the spring eventually returns. The human heart is much the same. It is a profoundly resilient thing. It can endure great hardship, great change, and great loss, and still find its way back to peace. It can hold sorrow and hope in the same gentle breath. Whatever storms you may be facing in your own life, know that the quiet will return. The peace you seek is always there, waiting for you. Just allow yourself to believe in the morning that is to come. Thank you for walking that long road with me tonight. Your quiet company was a great comfort on the journey. But now, your journey is over. There is nothing more you need to do. There
is nothing more you need to think about. You can let go of the story now. Let the faces and the cities and the great plains just dissolve like mist in the morning sunlight. You can let go of your own day as well. All of its cares and its worries.
Let them drift away now, becoming smaller and smaller until they are nothing at all. It is time to rest. It is time to sink down into the deep, soft and peaceful darkness of sleep. May your dreams be sweet and your rest profound. Sleep now. Sleep well.